Good morning, everyone. Guys, so the Russians have opened fire on the Germans. We've got a new era of nuclear warfare, and the British military would be destroyed within 6 months in a conflict with Russia. Guys, we're going to be talking about all this today. We're also going to be covering what's happening in Georgia, what's happening in Syria, how this is going to affect us in the United Kingdom, and how all of this flim-flammer and talk and rhetoric about peace deals, I'm going to put to bed that there is, I'm going to put this to bed and literally show you what's out in the mainstream and how this, if you read between the lines, what this actually says is no, there's going to be no hold up. All that we've got now is not even a lull in the battle, because the battle on the front line of Ukraine is still raging, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But right now, remember those temporal markers. We're waiting for the landmines that the Americans have said that they're going to give to the Ukrainians. We're waiting for those to get deployed, and we're waiting for those to be deemed not working or ineffective. So, guys, let's just get into it with the first article then. The Russians have opened. In fact, guys, before we go on, can you please like and comment and click the buttons below, the subscribe and the bell button, please? It helps me out so much when you guys do that. 40% of my viewers still have not subscribed, so it'd be great if you guys could do that. And of course, share all my content on your other social media platforms. So let's just get into this article straight away, guys, because it is the most, it's the most important. And I will put all these links in the description, guys. So I'm just reading off the article here, guys. Russian warship opens fire on German helicopter as Putin accused of attack on NATO. So this is a Russian warship has opened fire on a German military helicopter while it was flying over the Baltic Sea, according to the German foreign minister. Now, this was, as I understand it, when was this released, this article? This is like today, a few hours ago, I think. Yesterday it was. So what you've got now, you've got a situation where the Russians are firing signal ammunition at German helicopters. Now, guys, I get it. This is kind of, it signals, no pun intended, it signals a new phase, because I can remember back in 2014, I think, when MH17 was shot down. Once you start letting these people on these warships, and again, it's nothing controversial to say that the Russian military is not as disciplined as its NATO counterparts. Once you start letting these people open fire, it's only going to take a slight accident, a personal mistake, an error, for a colonel to tell a private, or however it works in the Russian Navy, hey, go and fill that weapon system up with signal ammunition, and for that Russian soldier not to hear the signal part. And then you get a series of mistakes, a series of errors that could lead to this war starting by accident. I've said long ago in many videos that I would suspect that all wars start by accident in some level. So what I mean by that, both sides are building up munitions, because no colonel, no general, no military advisor should ever really say that they're 100% ready to go to war. Yes, they will say, if you call me, I will go and fight now, which is true, they will. But if you ask them if they are ready behind closed doors, they will say, no, we always need more training. We always need more artillery. We always need more ammunition stockpiles. So as this happens, both sides of this conflict get more and more ammunition, because they're looking at the other side and they're saying, they've got 1 million rounds of 82 millimeter mortar. Right, okay, we need 1.5 million. And then the other side look and they say, right, they've got 1.5 million. We need 2 million. And you see how these things escalate until you get to such a situation where, for example, this situation in the Baltic Sea, if the Russians would have used a different type of ammunition, or if this ammunition had conducted a kinetic strike, you could have had a situation where that helicopter potentially fired back at the Russian warship Then the Russian warship then opened fire on the other NATO ships that are in and around that area. And then all of a sudden, in the space of literally a few minutes, you've got World War III started. And at this point, when you start sinking warships, when NATO warships start sinking Russian warships, I don't know how the mainstream media can, can pretend that this is not happening. Guys, we're already in a state of world war at the moment. All that's happened is we just have nobody stood up with a whistle and blown the whistle yet. So that's kind of what I'm going to lead with today, guys. This situation where Russian warships, Russia have basically opened fire on Germany. And people, there's a lot of people in the mainstream saying this is an attack on NATO, and I will put the links in the description, guys. So it came out yesterday that the UK army would be destroyed in 6 months to a year in a war with Russia. In fact, let me share this because I'm going to share two contradicting articles from the same outlet. So UK army would be destroyed in 6 months. Of course, I'll put all these links, guys. I'll put them in the description. UK army would be destroyed in 6 months to a year in a war, says Minister. Veterans Minister Alistair Khan says British forces would be expended in 12 months under the current. So, we're straight away. What does this mean? Under the current Russian casualty rate. Again, guys, listen. This guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He shouldn't be making comments like this. I don't know what his background is, but he definitely should not be in a situation to make these comments, because that will come. I'll give commentary in a second. London, a British defence minister. A British defence minister said Wednesday that the British army would be destroyed in 6 months to a year in the event of a major war. Alistair Cairns, the Minister for Veterans Affairs, told a conference in London that the current size of the British army meant its forces would be out of action within 12 months if there was a conflict on a similar scale to the war in Ukraine. He said around 1,500 Russian soldiers were killed or injured each day in that conflict. So I'll leave it there, guys, and I'll just talk about that now. So what he's not taking into consideration is, first of all, British troops wouldn't take that sort of, they wouldn't be under that attrition rate. The Russians are under that attrition rate because their soldiers are poorly trained, they're poorly equipped, they have bad tactics, they have tactics that allow a higher risk. They have a higher risk appetite. So Britain wouldn't see that rate of attrition. What I will say, though, is Britain is not going to be fighting Russia alone. And remember what I've done many videos on. Britain will take the leading role. So Britain will be the fist. Britain will be the NATO striking capacity when everybody's involved, when somebody does blow the whistle, which I think is going to be very soon. NATO will be the, and again, I don't want to use the word NATO because I think it's already obsolete. Whether this is a European army, the military assistance mission to Ukraine, whether these guys go in under the guise of peacekeepers, doesn't really matter at this point, guys, because it's going to happen. Whatever t-shirt they wear, whatever headdress they wear, doesn't really matter at this point. There will be boots on the ground. They will be from British homes and live in the United Kingdom, and they will be under command of British generals. Britain will take the leading role by the context of Britain has the best strike capacity, so they'll be the ones pushing forwards, seizing ground, seizing land, taking on the enemy, while then the rest of I'm going to use NATO, guys, because I don't know what the alliance is going to be, but like I said, it could be something else. The rest of the soldiers will move in, the Polish, the Romanians, the Germans, will provide the heavy armor, the support, the logistics. You have to lead from the front. So when I say Britain will take the lead, that's because I'm looking at the capacity of Britain, of Poland, of Germany, of France. And I understand how all this works. So that's why Britain will take the lead. And, Britain is not going to be fighting Russia. We won't be fighting a conflict with Russia on our own. Then, a slightly different... Again, let me share this again, guys, because it's wild how these things are just totally contradicting themselves. So another article from the same outlet, UK Army Chief we're ready to fight Putin in Eastern Europe. So this is from Rob McGowan. We would fight tonight. I did a video on this, guys, but I just thought I'd put this in there to show you how there's differences of opinion and there's differences of commentary. A lot of the people don't know what they're talking about, you know. So this article here, we would fight tonight. Yes, of course, Britain would fight tonight, because that's what they do. They're told to fight. Whether they'd win or not is a different question. And what do we mean by win? Because we have, when we're looking at these global conflicts of an industrial scale, we have to understand, what does actually winning mean? Like, I don't know what the Ukrainians mean. Like, for the Ukrainians, what does a win mean? For Putin, what does a win mean? You know, I can speculate for Putin right now, his short-term goal is to make it up to the River Dnipro. For the Ukrainians, I think right now it's just to stop them in their advance. So with that, guys, let me go now on to, in fact, have I got any more about Ukraine? Right, I'm going to come onto the shared map now, guys, in a minute. Let me just refresh this because I'm a little bit late this morning, guys. It's been cold. I got a load of wood dropped off yesterday, so I've been processing that in the garden. It's been an absolute nightmare. Processing wood in the rain is, well, I think it separates the men from the boys. Right, where are we? Let's go here. Let's just go. I'm going to go a month back, guys, okay? So that's not a month. Right, and I want you guys to watch these two areas of interest, because they really are like. So I want you to watch this. Let me zoom in a bit. See if I can zoom in. Can I? No, I don't. I don't think I can. Can I do it? No, let's just do it that way. Right, so I want you to watch Pokrov's here, guys. And this is a month ago. What the ground looked like. Obviously, the red is the Russians. The not red is the not Russians. So Valyeka, Novosilka, and then we've got Pokrov's. This town, guys, watch how quick this gets overrun, and watch how the Russians use these natural features, rivers, hills, woodland, valleys. In fact, there's no valleys out there. So watch how they're using the ground, and watch this pincer movement where they come from the south and then where they come from the north. And at that point, once they've come from the north and they've got to their line of exploitation, I would say they're going to put a heavy bombardment on this place, Valyeka, Novosilka. The Ukrainians, with any sense, will evacuate as quickly as possible. And historically, that's when they're going to take most of their casualties. And then the Russians will just encircle it, and then that will be another town fallen. Pokrov's here. This is still the key fortress town, city, whatever you want to call it. They're calling it a city. If it was European, it would be a town. So I'm just going to move forwards, guys. Look how much ground the Russians are taking. And please note, the Ukrainians are not taking any ground back. So that to me says that there is no front line. The front line's collapsed, and it's only a matter of time before the Russians make it all the way up to the River Dnipro. Each one of these is a day, guys. And down there, Valyeka, Novosilka, it's the speed of the advance is phenomenal. So that's the situation there, guys. You know, you've got these mass movements. This whole area is going to be gone soon. Now, if you look, Zaporizhia, you've got nuclear power plants in Zaporizhia. This River Dnipro here, this is going to form a defensive line for both the Ukrainians and for both the Russians. Dnipro here, this is a city. The city of Dnipro, that is a huge industrial base. But for the Russians, it's on the wrong side of the Dnipro. So I don't know how they're going to work that. I would assume initially they're going to come up to the Dnipro and they're not going to exploit themselves over the Dnipro. But at some point they will want to take that city of Dnipro because of its industrial base. There's a lot of industry. There's a lot of metallurgy capacity in there. There's a lot of military industrial. There's a lot of machinery, factories that can produce stuff for the Russian military industrial complex. And remember, as we're heading towards this new phase of warfare, this new, these new conflicts of an industrial scale, what's going to matter is getting the stuff from the factories to the front line. Now, if you've got a factory in Dnipro that is literally on the front line, guess what? That's going to cut down your logistics time very, very drastically. Well, we have to import our stuff from the United Kingdom through, or would you go? I mean, you probably fly it straight into Poland. But again, when this war starts and planes are getting shot out the sky, these these flights, you can pretty much forget about flights over Europe. So another article that I will share with you again, guys, is the new phase of warfare that we're heading to. Now, it really is a new phase of warfare. When I joined the military in 99, nuclear, chemical, and biological warfare, it was taught pretty competently. World entering a new nuclear age, head of armed forces warns. So when I joined the military in 99, the only real nuclear powers were the United States and the Russians. Now, as long as those two are of comparable size and capacity, the threat of nuclear war using the mutually assured destruction doctrine, it becomes low because the outcome will be catastrophic for either sides. But as this article talks about now, we have got, so this is from Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, highlighted Russia, China, Iran, North Korea's buildup of both weapons and threats is in his starkest ever public remarks. So what he's talking about there is now we've got these other actors that have, the capacity and the access to nuclear weapons. Iran's going to be the big one on there, guys. Iran's going to be the big one for the United States. But we've also got North Korea. Remember, nothing happens in North Korea without thumbs up from Big Brother China. So North Korea, you can kind of synonymously put that in the same bracket as China. So whatever China have, North Korea can have with a short truck drive, and then the North Koreans have this. Because let's be serious, guys, do we really think the North Koreans are developing all this stuff with their own scientists and they're having no help from China, no help from Russia, no help from the other BRICS nations? What I would say, though, I would also put into that category India. India is one of the wild cards for me. It's a huge industrial base. It's a member of BRICS. A lot of their exports go to Europe. It's going to be very interesting to see where India fall, where the chips fall with India. Also Turkey. I also put Turkey in that category. But we really are entering a new era of nuclear, a new nuclear age now, where more countries get nuclear weapons. And the old treaties that were signed, they become obsolete now because, if Russia wants to strike, if Russia wants to strike X location X, they're not going to do it themselves. Of course not. They're going to tell, North Korea to do it. And then what's going to happen to the North Koreans? I mean, is there going to be a retaliatory strike and destroy North Korea? I don't know. And if North Korea do this from a submarine that was gifted to them by the Russians, how is anybody going to know where these things come from? So you see, it's this buildup of nuclear rhetoric. It's it's going somewhere, guys. And I always say you're not going to see anything until you see a series of nuclear tests. Well, the Russians have started to talk about the use of the Russians have started to talk about conducting nuclear tests. Now, this would be the first time since 1990, I believe, when the Russians are actively conducting tests of their nuclear systems. I still think that the most likely place for a low-yield tactical nuclear weapon to be used is in the Kursk region by the Russians. I still think that's the main threat at the moment, guys. But the secondary places I've identified are places in Poland and places in airfields in Romania. Although unlikely, because you can take those airfields out with conventional munitions, and it's better to use conventional munitions because you have a better case use. There's not going to be as much international unity if you do use nuclear weapons. So another article has come out now, guys, saying that Moscow's claims that external forces are seeking to escalate violence in Syria. Again, guys, I literally, when all this started in Syria, when all this started in Georgia, I did a video. I said, look, okay, when you're trying to find out why things are happening, look who gains to benefit. Well, the Russians are certainly not benefiting by having to go and reinforce their military assets in Syria. The Russians are not benefiting having to put what's the word I'm looking for? The Russians are not benefiting having to invest capacity into the situation in Georgia, although I will come on to that in a moment, guys. So, a statement comes as Ukrainian intelligence say Russia will send mercenaries to support flagging troops allied to Damascus. So this situation in Syria, guys, I've said when it first started, you've got now, look who gains the benefit from this. It's not the Russians. So look who the adversaries of Russia are. That's going to be the likelihood of who started this. Now, what you've got in Syria, and I keep saying this, you've got troops flowing into Syria now to prop up the Assad regime. You've got troops from Iraq, you've got troops from Iran, you've now got, as this article says, and I'll put all these in the description, troops from mercenaries, or whatever that means, mercenaries now from Russia going in there to help the Assad regime. Once these troops are there, guys, I'm going to say, and this situation's died down, I'm going to say these are then going to be a threat to Israel. So right now, I'm going to keep Syria, Georgia, and Ukraine all in the same category. But once this has died down, and it will die down at some point, those troops that are in Syria, they're going to be a direct threat then to Israel. So that's kind of how I believe that situation will develop. And something that's had no media attention really, and I think it should be like front page everywhere. These US jets attack Iranian militias in Syria. So I'll put this link in the description, guys. Self-defense strikes conducted in eastern province as Russian vessels are spotted leaving the Kremlin's crucial Mediterranean port. American aircraft reportedly attacked Iranian-backed fighters in Syria as a renewed civil war threatened to engulf the country. This is absolutely wild, guys. What this says to me is US troops still in Syria, because it's one of the self-defense strikes. The region that they're talking about, that northeastern corridor, that's where all the oil is. So, where's this oil going? Who's profiting? And you kind of start to see now the real reasons for these conflicts. And all conflicts at some level are fought over resources. There is no other reason for these conflicts. If there was some sort of MacGuffin that gave a free energy machine, somebody had found perpetual motion, and there's a little box, and you can plug into the little box and you get 1 kilowatt out of it. That would stop all wars overnight, guys. All wars overnight, because that would put the world into abundance. We would become a post-scarcity civilization. But unfortunately, we still fight over resources. And I'll share this one with you guys as well, because I am conscious that the time is running up. But there's so much been happening. So for those of you who think that Donald Trump's going to have who's going to have an, peace deal and the war's going to be over, this is an article from, I think, when is it? 5th of December, so today. EU ready to step in if US withdraws from G7's 50 billion Ukraine loan. So what that also says is EU will keep the war in Ukraine going. That's literally what it says, guys, but take of that what you will. That's how I'm interpreting it. Trump should make his intentions known so the EU can make a contingency plan, says top Polish finance official. I've spoke about this a long time ago, guys. I've talked about this. The loan is not going to be repaid by Ukraine. The loan is going to be repaid by seized Russian assets. It's wild. And this is how you know that these wars, and this is not going to, it's not going to go anywhere. The EU are ready to step in. So the EU will step in. So it's already been talked about behind closed doors. So remember what we said, guys. We're going to see these diversions where the United States is going to go and have his war. Putin's going to go and Trump is going to go and have his war in Iran because of the nuclear rhetoric, and the United States are the only ones who can do that. And the European Union, the EU, Europe, whatever's left of NATO, we're going to have to put our big boy pants on, and we're going to have to go and take responsibility for the mess in eastern Ukraine. Now, Georgia crackdown begins on anti-government protesters. this is what. So this now is where it could go into armed conflict, armed uprising. Police have raided opposition party officers. Activists say it's an attempt to silence them. If it is, it doesn't seem to have worked. So we're on are we on the 6th or 7th night of protests in Georgia? Georgia's prime minister has vowed to punish those participating in anti-government protests. So this is what I mean, guys. Now, those people in Georgia, when they're seeing this, they're seeing that they're getting cracked down and think they're getting heavy prison sentences. They're getting, police launched multiple raids on opposition party officers, with one leader reportedly detained and beaten unconscious. So when these people protesting are seeing this, they're thinking, right, if we don't overthrow this government, if we don't get what we want, what's going to happen to us is going to be horrific. And I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get arrested and have 3 years, 4 years, 10 years in a gulag. So we're going to push even harder. It's like having a caged animal, guys, a caged wounded animal. They're very vicious. And this is what I could see, guys, coming to the streets of the United Kingdom, because the next time there's an incident in the United Kingdom, when people want to go out to protest, and people start protesting, and Keir Starmer starts putting people away for a long time. But people are so angry because they've been told that they're bad if they protest this stuff. While we're seeing people come to our country and then do bad things to the people who live here, people are going to get more and more angry. And when you put this heavy lid on the pot and you keep it simmering, it's going to go at some point, guys. It's an inevitability. What's happening in Georgia now, the people of Georgia will be... This situation, guys, in Georgia right now with this crackdown, it's going to inflame the situation. We've got more on the police raid in Georgia. What's good? Right, guys, these drones, I'm going to leave it with these drones, guys. This is going to be the last thing I'm talking about. These drones that have been spotted, not just all over the UK, but there's drones now spotted all over the world. And these are like mysterious drones spotted all over. I mean, I've tried to find footage of these drones and I can't find any footage. So I'm like, is it real? Are there really drones over US air bases, or is it fake news? Because I can't find anything other than some little lights that are just whizzing around, and I can't make any head or tail of that. But it seems like it's it seems like the perception is it's real. But what do I think there's more to this, guys. I think there's more to this than meets the eye. Remember, what do I always say, guys? It's not the reality that matters. It's the perception of that reality. So if the mainstream media are coming out and saying, there's drones all over the UK air bases, we've been surveilled for X, Y, and Z, then that's the perception and that is the reality. But guys, if anyone's seen any credible footage of drones over these bases, can you please send it me? Because I really want to have a look at this. I've seen some really wild stuff, but it's just lights. So I'm thinking, why are these things only coming out at night? What kind of sensors do they have on them? And surely, if I know for 100% certainty, you can track where that signal's coming from. If these US air bases, I'm pretty much convinced that a United States Air Force, the biggest air force in the world, I'm pretty sure they've got radar. And can they not track where these radars are going? Once you've seen that, you can identify that, and you can change your radar settings to identify where that drone goes, and then just say, right, it landed there, we're going to go and arrest those people. Is that not something that can happen? Guys, there seems to me to be more to this than meets the eye. I'd love to see some footage of this, guys. I'd like to know what sensors these drones have, because they're only seen to be out at night time. So if you're wanting to go and look at something, surely you want to go look in the day. Surely you're going to want to go and look when, Uncle Sunshine's shining and nothing, and it's not all dark. Really, really insane, guys, this situation with the drones over the United Kingdom. There's lots of them all over the world, guys. It's wild. Anyway, guys, I'm going to mag to grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.